Greetings, Algo artisans. We're going to talk about Ando today. We've done a video before, and I do think it's possible this could go 100x. It could, at least a 10x, or maybe not. We're going to get into the charts. We're going to do it right now. Okay, here's Ando. Ando is part of the real-world asset class of cryptocurrencies. So real-world assets are, say, physical goods, or they could even be bonds, things you buy in the stock market, traditional finance. They could be homes. They could be just anything. Anything real-world that can be tokenized into RWA-type coins like Ando. Ando seems to have some really good connections. We've looked at it. We did an entire video on Ando that I will link to this in the top corner so you can get the background without me having to go through all of it today. Right now, we're going to simply take a look at what's happening with the price action, and we're also going to take a look at Jupiter, and we're going to take a look at Radium and see how they've been faring. Bitcoin has been taking its fall. We've talked all about it this morning. It's a pre-halving pullback. It seems to be a second one, and again, the algos are still a little bit bearish. However, the support around 60,000 does seem to remain strong. So Bitcoin may fall below that, may not, and what Bitcoin does has a lot to do with what all the rest of the altcoins will do, as this has always been the case. So let's go ahead and map out what is going on here, because Ando has held up way better than a lot of coins. We're looking at a pretty decently defined range here. Okay, so Ando has pretty much respected this range, and it hasn't really gone far below, say, 74 cents for very long. You do see a deviation here down to 57 cents. I think that was during a very strong move down with Bitcoin, and of course a lot of panic selling. You see these things happen, and of course an echo move back up, sort of response to that. With this particular range, I'm going to go ahead and define it as such. These do have a little bit of subjectivity, but I do like the way that this lines up, and Ando is now approaching the bottom of that range, just like Bitcoin, like we talked about this morning on the live show. Please go see it. How Bitcoin is at the bottom of a similar range, and more or less is going to dictate what's happening with Ando. Now, if Bitcoin stays strong, if it can bounce off of that low $60,000 area, we may go ahead and see Ando do a similar thing. And I do think that we're going to see something like this, again, predicated on that Bitcoin move bouncing up from the current lows. Now, we do have essentially a second range here that's a little bit older. It's going to create also a liquidity zone. And I see that more or less looking like this. There's that, and then there's the in-between. So essentially, I do see Ando possibly moving down to grab liquidity in this area. I don't know that it's going to bounce around in this area, but I do see a lot of volume in Ando at the 46, 47 area. But that is a pretty steep sell-off for Ando. That would be taking it all the way down. I mean, approaching 40%. That's a pretty big loss. I don't know that Ando is that weak. Ando is very popular, and there is a lot going on. They've partnered with, names like BlackRock, if memory serves. Again, watch the video that we linked to. You'll see the partnerships. If we do break down below this current range, this low of, say, 73.5 cents, if price decisively breaks below that due to probably a Bitcoin break below 60,000, price may simply grab liquidity anywhere in this area. It may simply just go to maybe 61, 62 cents at the bottom of where all these wicks are. Could actually go down lower and grab liquidity in this area, and I think that is all going to, again, be predicated on the protraction, on how bad that Bitcoin move down is, if it ever happens. So this is what we're looking at. But if we look at the overall picture and back away from what might happen in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a really strong coin, if you ask me. It has stayed well above its March highs, right? So it's early March highs. A lot of coins haven't done that. A lot of coins are actually below their March highs. We're going to take a look at Jupiter and Radium next as comparison. But for the most part in April, it has stayed above 74 cents and it has not broken down yet. And by the way, just because Bitcoin might break below 60,000 does not mean Ando will do the same. It really depends on how Bitcoin breaks it. Bitcoin breaks down precipitously. If it really breaks down really hard, all of a sudden, big wham all the way down to 50,000, yeah, most cryptos are going to take a nasty hit. But if Bitcoin just kind of levels off and doesn't make a strong move down, this actually could be okay. Now, remember, we're approaching the halving. The halving is in just a few days, 4 days, I think, the 20th. Today is the 16th of April. And usually after the halving, we can see things such as Bitcoin kind of taking a a slight retracement, leveling off and then moving up. Of course, we're in a different environment. There's a lot of professional financial type money going into cryptocurrency. So we may simply see a price head up after that. The future is uncertain, but in the meantime, I do see these two possibilities as distinct. I do think price is going to continue to range a little bit in this very small area between 79 cents and between 73, just kind of back and forth there, and then make a decision up or down, and Bitcoin is going to call that out. Let's go ahead and take a look at Radium and Jupiter, two coins that have been comparatively strong but seem to be selling off at the moment. Radium is selling off and it is dipping down towards February type prices. So Radium really did well in the meme coin craze, and it will probably do so again once Bitcoin regains, after the halving, and if and when Bitcoin regains its resumption up. That being said, right now that game is sloughing off. A lot of the volume is leaving meme coins right now. However, it still is going on. There's a lot of meme coin stuff happening, so I think unless we see a very long sort of bearish moment in Bitcoin, I don't expect to see a break below the February lows. February low was right here, 85 cents roughly. Price is at 145. That's a pretty steep fall. Not to say it couldn't happen, but right now price is in an area where there's a lot of liquidity from the past. You can see just long consolidation in this area, a lot of liquidity, and I do think that we might just see this and some other alts kind of going down into this February liquidity range. Again, Ando doesn't seem to be doing that yet. It seems to be a lot stronger, but Radium does seem like it's going to do that, and it just really depends on whether Bitcoin takes a long time, stays stable, or dips down. But I think it's a decent thesis to expect this to grab liquidity and maybe even take a while doing it and then eventually make its way back up. And we can see how long this last consolidation took. This last consolidation had a peak to low of 62 days. That's 2 months. So the current time on the consolidation, or at least the beginning of it, is 30 days. So we're halfway through what the prior consolidation was. So if we were to just use that as a basic yardstick, we could easily see this continue out for another month before price goes up. So again, in crypto, most people make money by buying and holding. There are those who trade and have other, different strategies, hybrid strategies, but most people make better money buying and holding and trying not to time the market. Jupiter looking very similar, although it doesn't have that floor that was built last February, at least not in the same way. Let me say it this way: the floor that Jupiter built in February was much lower. You do have some price action down around the 55-cent level, so really between 45 and 62 cents. And price is well above that at the moment. You do have some price action right here in this same area. So price could easily grab liquidity from these areas and move up depending on what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin heads down, Jupiter heads down, grabs liquidity here, may consolidate, move up. Maybe like a 3-week consolidation before the move up. We've already been through about 3 weeks, if not longer. Price really could move up again. It just really depends on, again, Bitcoin itself. And if Bitcoin really takes a tumble and it takes a hard one, then price easily could move further down, depending on when that tumble happens. Could happen sooner, could happen later. These are the areas where price might make some contact. And again, this is, in my opinion, a good buying range, right? Good place to buy is if price goes into these lower areas. Again, most of these most of these halvings do have a pullback before the halving, and we're seeing the same thing that we've seen the prior halvings. So this is not really a big surprise. And altcoins do move more strongly than Bitcoin usually. They go up faster, they go down faster, and so we are seeing a sell-off. That's just what's going on. And in the meantime, we're looking at what might be some pretty good prices pretty soon, if not now. I do hope this helps. As a matter of fact, I do have a testimonial here from one of our clients, Trev, and he does have some pretty nice things to say about us, so go ahead and take a look at that. And thank you for listening to that. Like I said, come over to algofactory.tech. We do help people build their own trading algorithm, their own trading method. You don't have to know how to code. You don't have to auto trade it. You don't have to know any of that stuff. You can just develop a trading method, deploy that, and if you do care to code it so you can walk away and have a trade for you, that is also an option. We're over at algofactory.tech. Remember, trade your job, upgrade your life. We'll see you on the next one.